Hello everyone, my name is Joshua and this is the 192nd video on my video journal series. Today's date is Wednesday the 19th of August 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. And today I spent the whole day at uni working on my photography assignment and doing a bit of homework on the side. And in the morning, everything seemed to be fine. Good internet. I was able to check my emails, check my Google Drive. But then in the afternoon, I was like, all right, I want to work on my photography assignment. I have all the files uploaded onto Google Drive. So I tried accessing Google Drive on the school's computers. And for some reason, Google Drive wasn't loading. But Microsoft Outlook and all the other things that I used was. And I was like, oh my God, why at this moment? It's not like I had a hard drive or a USB stick to plug into the computer with all my files. It was literally stored on Google Drive. So what I had to do, I had to bust out my laptop today, and luckily I had the files downloaded on my laptop. So I had to send an email to myself with a Microsoft OneDrive link, and then log onto the school's computer, log into my Microsoft Outlook, download that file that I sent to myself via email, and then can I actually start working on my photography assignment. And when I save the assignment, I want to send all the saved files and the all my current work, the project file. I have to basically reverse that process again. So it was a nightmare. I know I should have brought like a hard drive or something, but the Mac computers only support USB Type C and only had like a USB thumb drive, which is annoying. But yeah, I did not expect Google Drive to take so long to load today. I always hate it when you really need to access a specific app or website, but for some reason it isn't loading. But all the other websites you go to are just completely fine. And I remember it was like this particular area of my university where everything seemed to like slow down the computers, so I had to step out of that area, and then suddenly my laptop was actually working. I was like, oh man, now I have to you know go to this area, load up all my files and all that, send it via email, then rush back to the PCs before anyone else has taken my spot. Really, we're living in the year 2026, but yet, like, sometimes, these sorts of inconveniences can happen. Which is a reminder that if you ever, do a uni project or school project or TAFE project, whatever, always save it on a USB stick or a hard drive or one of those like SSDs. Don't rely solely on a digital backup. A digital backup is great. You should definitely do it, but also have one like where you can just plug it in and you can access all your files. Just like a USB thumb drive or a hard drive SSD, something like that. Also, because it just saves so much time. You know, always make two copies of everything. That's what I like to say. But yeah, it was just so annoying. Um, and I'm nearly done on that photography assignment thing. Just gonna do a few more touch ups. But I've looked at the weeks ahead, and I got a few assessments coming up. So yeah, now it seems like everything's sort of getting like faster, and everything's starting to sort of consume more and more of my time. But I'm getting an early start on these assignments, so it isn't that bad. But it's just annoying where you want to like get a start, you want to finish this thing off, but then suddenly there's like a minor sort of roadblock, and it took me. I'm not even kidding you, like an hour to get everything sorted. From the time I sat down, I was like, all right, I want to work on this photography assignment. To the time I actually booted up the editing software and got to make changes, I believe it took me like an hour. I even tried like multiple PCs in that area because I was like, why are all these PCs so slow at loading? This is supposed to be new technology. But I guess everyone was like hogging up the Wi-Fi. Maybe Google's servers were experiencing a slight sort of difficulty or malfunction. I don't know. But technology when you actually need it, does like fail on you in the most inconvenient of times. But yet again, that's my sort of lesson learned. um, and yeah, like honestly, but I've had pretty like bad experiences with the internet. I live here in Australia. Here in Australia, we have like pretty like generally. I'll say up until recently, we had like pretty poor internet. Now with NBN, fiber optic cables, we're doing all right, but we're still far behind the rest of the world. And I'm quite used to slow Wi-Fi. Um, so, but like even then, if you go to a university or public, institution that spends a lot of money on technology, you expect them to have like reasonable Wi-Fi speeds, and not to constantly crash out on you. And there's some areas of my university where you absolutely get no Wi-Fi signal. This area I'm in right now doesn't really receive like a strong sort of Wi-Fi signal, because it's far away from like where my actual router is. So whenever I'm in this space, whenever I'm on the couch, watching YouTube, it like dips half the time. And I know I can put one of those like Wi-Fi extenders in, but I don't know why. And I guess like this area sort of like makes sense. It's sort of like isolated. And it's my house. It's not supposed to be like one of those like smart houses or a public institution or research facility or university. With my uni, there's some areas where you basically get no Wi-Fi signal, and sometimes you're trying to like boot up Google Drive or Microsoft Word, and you can't even like write anything because it's like, oh, offline, you can't write anything now. Just time to bust out the old text document, I guess. um, yeah, man. So I guess that's one room for improvement. Just you know, if your research facility or university to basically upgrade your your Wi-Fi network, especially all those like dead zones. But yeah, apart from that, today was pretty good. It was pretty good weather today, and sorry about my voice. I feel like I'm not really sick, but I might just be a little bit fatigued because I've been going in uni, staying long hours, and I don't mind doing work and all that, but wears you down, and I need to have a lot of energy these next couple of weeks to work on these assignments and all. Um, but yeah, I'm determined, and I'm determined to work through any sort of technological mishap, or just unexpected sort of crashes or really obstacles. I could just say obstacles. Today was sort of like an obstacle, wasted like an hour of my time. Um, I guess that's partially due to my fault. I didn't bring like a you know yet again a thumb drive or SSD. I just had to rely solely on a Google Drive. But yet again, though, like it keeps me going. I need to finish these things. I need to finish my assignments on time. I need to do this video journal series on time. So you gotta, that's part of the challenge. You gotta stay in the game. But I can most probably close that book about technology. I'm just sick of talking about technology all the time, old man. Like, back in my day, we used pen and paper. Now it's the most reliable thing. The worst you could use pen and paper. Like the worst thing that could happen was the dog ate your homework, or it rains and the ink gets everywhere. You can't read what your paper says anymore. But in and around the city, I actually took the train today. This is another thing I want to talk about. Sydney train stations, right? At Central, a bunch of suburban stations I've been to, they've been playing these messages that says, if something doesn't add up, speak up. If you see an unattended bag, don't touch it, notify a member of staff. It's always like national security alerts that you hear at train stations nowadays. And yeah, I heard a few today. Even some on the train, like when I'm on the train, like, oh, if you get, this is a national emergency, but like, if you get sick, notify a member of staff immediately, or if you see something suspicious, notify a member of staff. I'm like, all these announcements. And even like at Central Station, right, where the metro where the sort of escalators that go down to the metro platforms are, there's these signs that says this area is under 24/7 surveillance. Like, doesn't that just kill the mood of the area when you have all these announcements that national security and the national security hotline, and then you got like ads saying you are being watched, national you know hotline, or 24/7 surveillance. Like I think everyone would know that Central Station will have a fair amount of surveillance cameras to help, I guess, one, deter crime, and two, sort of catch the criminals. But it kind of just kills the sort of atmosphere. It's like if you just put like a surveillance signs in like public parks. And I don't want to sound like one of those like, mad conspiracy theorists. We need CCTV technology nowadays, but I think if you just constantly like just put like posters notifying that everywhere, you're like, oh, I mean, it could be to deter crime and all of that, but I remember like I'll finish my current point. Like, I know it's to deter crime, but I don't know. It just seems a little bit eerie. And I remember those signs I was talking about near the metro platforms at Central Station. They used to be a lot more invasive. Now it's just like a sort of like black poster with like a white silhouette of an eye. Before it was like a very bright like yellow corflet, and oh man, there was like nearly a dozen of them. They were just like everywhere. I'm not even joking. Saying this area is underneath CCTV and all that. I'm like, man, this just looks like they're going a little bit too far. I wish I took pictures or something, but I noticed when they switch from those yellow corflets to the current posters that they have. I'm like, all right, this is an improvement. I kind of prefer the second option, but at the same time, um, I guess that's just life nowadays, and you're always going to be out on alert. I know a few things have happened here in Sydney these last couple of years, so you're always going to be on the lookout. But at the same time, I feel like it does feel a little bit sort of eerie. Maybe someone will make like an archive of this in the future of like all these train station announcements and alerts about sort of national security. Would that become like the next sort of like anti-piracy screen trend or whatever, or like emergency alert scenario? Um, I guess it kind of fits into the second sort of option. Um, I don't know why those things became like sort of like big internet trends, especially um, the anti-piracy screen trend of the I think it was 2025 or 2026. Basically, for those watching in the future, there was a massive trend not too long ago, as of me recording this, where people made like, well, sometimes they posted legitimate, but sometimes they made up their own like sort of anti-piracy screens. Those ones that you see at the beginning of like DVD, VHS tapes, or when you like play a pirated game. It says, gives you all the FBI warnings, says this game can only be played on official software, official hardware, sort of thing. I know I'm getting a little bit further away from my main point, but that was a massive internet trend, um, and I feel like with this sort of like, well, it's not really an emergency alert. It's more like sort of like a be on alert message. I feel like that could most probably become a thing in the future. You never really know. Um, Maybe because everyone um, here in Sydney's heard of it, and I know in other countries they do like a sort of like similar thing. I know in the UK they have if something doesn't speak up, or if something doesn't add up, speak up sort of campaign. So it's not just endemic to Australia. And I guess it is good to like sort of promote, um, you know, this sort of hotline just in case people really need to use it. But at the same time, um, if you just hear that like same announcement over and over again, I don't know, just has that sort of like eerie nature to me. But anyway, I'm gonna close that book about train station announcements. And yeah, I came into the city. I came into the city around 10 o'clock today, and I remember um, riding on a few trains just for fun, around the city circle because I wanted to take some footage. And I was in some like empty train carriages, and yet again, though, just to add to like the eerie atmosphere of those, if something doesn't add up, speak up messages. If you hear one of those in like an empty train carriage, it really just adds to that atmosphere, that sort of like eerie atmosphere. I kind of like, um, just sitting in an empty train carriage sometimes, because it's just, yet again, here in Sydney, we got like double decker trains and, there's plenty of like seating, but no one's actually in those seats. So it's just like you. And it just makes you feel, I don't know what that feeling is. It's sort of like subliminal, subliminal space. Especially when you have like a whole train carriage to yourself. And whenever that happens, I try to like record it on my phone, because I feel like it just evokes that particular emotion. I do actually have a video on my main channel where I did that with a K-set train. It's one of those old trains that used to run here in Sydney. That was made in like the 1980s, early 80s. And you can clearly see it's like an old train, and I don't know, it just adds to that sort of like subliminal space, that sort of like eerie feeling, Um, I think that could just apply to like anywhere, right? Where you expect there to be like a large sort of crowd, but there's like no one there, Another thing, if I were to talk about that, COVID, I remember I took a few um, photos of the Sydney CBD during COVID, or it was around like I think just after COVID restrictions eased, but not many people went into the city. And I remember like seeing all the city streets just like deserted, no cars, and I was like, man, we won't be able to like see this again, sort of thing. Like I never seen such a sort of built up area so um, deserted. And yet again, there's plenty of things that could add to that sort of like eerie atmosphere, sound elements, visual elements, and all of that. And I'm trying my best to like sort of capture that, from trains to train stations. That's not really like that wide of a jump, but it's pretty much what I'm interested in. So I can most probably close that book about that. I know this video's been all sort of like over the place, but um, some days, there's a lot to talk about. Some other days, it's not really much to talk about. And I like to make these videos like specifically about today. I don't want to like keep it going to story time unless I really need to. Um, but what else happened today? No, I came home, had a very delicious dinner. And one thing I want to end on is that those Nesquik milk bottles that I made that video on. That limited edition gummies released by Allen's. Well, I know they're limited edition and all, but I actually spotted a few at a Woolworths Metro store in the Sydney CBD, and I made sure I grabbed like four of them. I'm not even kidding. I grabbed four, and I'm still surprised there's on store shelves. I thought they would have like gotten rid of them. I don't know. Maybe they did, and maybe just Woolies had like a few in the warehouse, and this is like their final sort of shipment. Or maybe someone from Allen's or Nesquik watched my video and were like, "All right, this guy likes it, so we should put this on. We should continue stocking this item." But yeah, I'll keep on getting those hashtag not an ad, but I'll keep on getting those Allen's Nesquik inspired milk bottle gummies. That's what they're called. For as long as I can, really. Excuse me. And yet again, I'm not complaining that I'm able to see them again. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. I'm happy. And they still have those Mountain Dew bottle gummies. So yeah. Apart from that, pretty much that's all that happened today. Really, rest of the week. Apart from me going to uni tomorrow and on Friday, there's nothing really all that much. I most probably have to like sort of relax a bit because, um, I feel like commuting to the city, right? As much as I like taking photos and videos of the city and looking at all the buildings and all, just I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a little bit tired of the city life. Summer's on the run. If you know that song. Uh, but I feel like a little bit. Yet again, I if I have to be literal, I am a little bit tired of the city life, and I don't know. I like to live in a more sort of farmland area, rural area, maybe for a while. Um, maybe when I retire, or maybe I'll just like stay home more often and try not to go to the sea unless I like have to. And I guess it comes with age. Everyone prefers their sort of like own lifestyle. Where to live. Some people prefer more urban areas. Some people prefer more suburban or urban areas. But for me, I think I'm reaching that old age where I'm like, all right, well, I just want things that are close to me now. Um, and I guess, what point am I trying to make here? I guess, you know, yet again, just comes with age, and maybe this week was just a little bit too harsh. If I take some rest, I'll, most probably change my mind. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. Yet again, though, thank you for watching, and I guess I'll catch you all next time. Bye, see you, take care. Catch you all tomorrow.